doing, and I'm shaking up our fluids experiment so you can kind of see, what a real experiment looks like, and not just playing with our water drops, but understanding how fluids behave in space. Well, it has to do with everything we do at home. And everything that we wear, everything that is in our house that is made with a process of something flowing through a pipe, we need to understand what liquids do. And this experiment actually shows us how to design fuel tanks for satellites. And you think, well, gee, why would I care? Everybody uses a cell phone, electronic devices, communication, military defense, you name it. And it all comes from things like this. Today's experiment is called Pepper Oil Surprise. So our job is to look at what happens to things that don't mix on the ground and see whether they mix up in space or how they behave in space. And so the students at Potlatch took oil and water and put them each in a bag. And what they found was that the oil and the water separated after just a small amount of time. And what we're going to do is see what happens up here in space. So the first thing is to be able to collect our 15 mils of water that we need in our bag. According to the procedure, we're going to shake this for 15 seconds.
You get out?
I think it does. I can only speak for my own personal medical data, right. But I came back with really good bone density. And I think that is attributed to, in some part to the exercise, in some part to I was using one of the osteoporosis drugs, trying out, just trying to understand how they work, since things happen to us so much faster up there. Right. We lose bone and we gain bone so much faster. There's a lot of experiments that involve us understanding what happens to people. One of the really exciting ones to me personally is experiments in osteoporosis. So up there in space, we lose bone mass about 10 times the rate of your average osteoporotic woman. And so, because we tend to have very few medical complications, we make pretty convenient test subjects. And I myself was a test subject to understand, what happens when you lose bone like that, and how do we prevent it. And in fact, I came back with literally no bone loss. We're still diagnosing that it looks very positive. Well, one way to answer that question is to say that the medical experiments that actually examine, how I'm doing and how I'm affected by space, those are of great interest to me. One of those is osteoporosis.
Which is your health. One of the things we're learning from this is about osteoporosis. If you analyze what's inside your medical samples, then you can find out how your body is retaining or losing its skeleton. And that, of course, is important for long-duration spaceflight. On the way to Mars or somewhere, we got to be able to keep a strong skeleton to be able to get out and work on Mars. But also, it applies to people on Earth. A lot of older folks get osteoporosis, and we don't really understand the mechanisms why in the body. And here, regular people instantly start getting osteoporosis at an accelerated rate because of changing one variable, gravity. So by studying our medical samples, we can try and help solve the problem of osteoporosis. But these have to go in the freezer. One from the University of Waterloo has some complexity to it. I think Dr. Hewson was talking to you about it. But we take these leg cuffs, and I'm going to float the microphone. We take these leg cuffs and have to put them on our upper thighs here and get it all just right and attached, and then pump them up. And then when everything's just right, we have all the medical data attached to our body, then release them. And it's almost the same as coming from weightlessness and suddenly putting gravity back, so that the blood that was trapped now suddenly can flush down into the legs. And it takes a lot of setup, of course, to get all of the biomedical sensing equipment attached to our body, and then get all the parameters. I mean, Dr. Hewson and his team have been working on it for years to get to the moment where I can get all this equipment set up, running properly in the right position, and then have my body go through this sudden change, so that then we can study how the body regulates blood pressure.
How much money it costs to send stuff up there. Don't tell. It's actually all legal, okay? But you can argue about how much it costs to do experiments up there, but the fact is we're doing things that just can't be done down here. It's a little part of spaghetti, okay? And to understand that structure, if you understood that structure, you could design a drug that exactly fit that, and you could prevent that disease or cure that disease. And the problem is that the entire big bunch of spaghetti is actually like the length of this ship. And you don't know which part of the spaghetti you need to actually look at and analyze the structure. Well, up there, that active part is really active, much more active than here on the ground. And
so instead of having to analyze a whole entire room full of spaghetti, we only have to analyze, you know, a tiny neighborhood. And so it really helps focus some research here on the ground. So
Here we go. Watch this. Yes. How'd I do? Did I make